from our bell hooks. So just a little background, if you don't know who bell hooks is, I think it's important that I introduce accordingly bell hooks. So bell hooks, yes, she died on the 15th of December. To examine the connection and loss. To her this book that she wrote in 2000 is a book that is really about what could be possible in practice if people will become more love-centered in life. And so why I chose to review this book is because I'd read it previously in my life, and it didn't have a deep meaning as it has in recent years. So I wanted to just share for memories. I can go back to this video to remember how good the book was and what I enjoyed about and how I understood the book. So it would be nice to do what I think books in the future, but I think let me just review one last so I've got a lot of notes. I don't have written notes as I would previously, but I have a book in hand and some quotes that I want to discuss. And I've got a few notes that I want to look at, and then that for me is my ring light, so let it ring. At the top of the book, it says it's a national bestseller, so it must have been a really good book in the 90s. It's Christmas season, so I'm drinking Christmas coffee. And the first thing that I want to explore in this book is that the book is really about bell hooks' love, understanding of love and the search for meaning of love. And it's also in a series, so it's not just this book specifically. There's other books in the series all about love, new visions, salvation, Black people and love, which is an exploration of the role love plays in the lives of African Americans, spanning from days of slavery to freedom, incorporating the power of liberation, civil rights, and hip-hop movements, told from both historical hooks, combines cultural critique with an emphasis on self-help and self-recovery, offering new visions that will heal the wounds inflicted by the culture of lovelessness. Communion, which is the female search for love. Communion challenges every female to courageously claim the search for love as a heroic journey she must undertake to be truly free. Hooks explores how ideas about women in love were changed by feminist movement, by the woman's full participation in the workforce, and by the culture of self-help in popular mass media forces. She celebrates the experience of a woman over 30, sharing collective wisdom and lessons learned as a practice in the art of loving. So those are the Bell Hooks Love Trilogy. So I've only just read one. And I didn't know about the other books until I read the big page. So it's an interesting way to look at it. And these are from the publishers Perennial. Okay, not really not. So why I decided to review this because I wanted it for memory, and I wanted it to remember. And Bell Hooks is one of my favorite authors, academic as well as so I originally read it in my late 20s and recently read it again, and it's a different experience in each generation. So I'm hoping when I read it when I'm like 50, I'm more critical, and I'm also more open to the words in this book. So the book is divided into 12 chapters, 13 chapters, and I'll speak to each of the chapters as I go along. I'm really aiming not to talk for too long, but if you want an in-depth review of this book, my best advice is to read it from beginning to end. I really think it's about the importance of what love can do and the exploration of what love as an action and a commitment and as a societal ethic can transform communities and shift us from being to a love-centered life. And in my opinion, is a must read for yourself. So to critique for yourself, to understand for yourself what love means. So the first thing in her introduction, she says something that I thought was prolific. She says, everyone wants to know more about love. We know what it means to love, what we do in our everyday lives to love and be loved. We want to know how to seduce those among us who remain wedded to lovelessness and open to the door to their hearts to let love enter. To strengthen our desire does not change the power of our cultural necessity. From our religions and our families and our romantic lives, we see little education that love informs decisions, strengthens our understanding of the community. Believe in love's promise. So in her introductory chapter, she talks about how love is an universal quest for love, and that we all desire to understand. So this is not just what I think, and I also think it's universal, regardless of our age, our background. We all yearn for a deeper understanding of what love means and how to receive love, and how love is central need for all of our society. So that's a brief introduction. And chapter 1 is titled Clarity, Give Love Words. So in this chapter, she define love for ourselves. We must understand that what we mean when we speak of love and how she defines it. So she divides that love is an action, and she looks at applying Simon Peck's, Scott Peck's definition of love, and this becomes very important when I speak of she has a Scott Peck's writing in one of his books. The name of the book is called Road Less Traveled. I've read this book. It's closely linked to this book, so I would suggest that along with this book with Scott Peck's wow, I don't know the title anymore, The Road Less Traveled. And so she speaks of the fact that love is not just passive, it's deliberate action, and we must understand it's a combination of care, commitment, trust, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. And so how we understand it. And then in chapter 2, she speaks about justice, childhood love lessons, and the importance of that what we learn from childhood about love affirms and defines what we consider it for as long as we live on this earth. And so it's very important to define love, but then also be reminded that from childhood, and so and that guidance is important. If it's been wronged, that we must correct it. If it's been the right path, that we must continue. And so she says that the importance for us, we must have a kind and loving foundation in order to be loving, and we must support the ways of love from an early age. To guidance, and we must become responsibility to learn if you are not educated. So she said, love as love does, it's our responsibility to give children love. When we love children, we acknowledge by our every action that we are not property, that they have rights, that we respect and uphold their rights. Without justice, there can be no love. So from the foundation of how we understand love, it becomes very important. Chapter 3, she's where we get guidance about what love is. Chapter 3 is about honesty and the importance of honesty in love, and that we cannot be dishonest and be loving. Now, a very strong quote that says, in today's world, we are taught to fear the truth, to believe it always hurts. We're encouraged to see honest people as naive, as potential losers, bombarded with cultural propaganda, ready to instill in all of us the notion that lies are more important than the truth, The truth does not matter. We are all potential victims. Consumer culture in particular encourages lies. Advertising is one of the cultural mediums that most function by, keeping people in constant state of lack, in perpetual desire, strengthens the marketplace economy. Lovelessness in its boon to consumerism, and lies strengthen the world of predatory advertising. Our passive acceptance of lies in public life, particularly via mass media, oppose and perpetuates living in our private lives. In our public life, there would be nothing for tabloid journalism to expose if we live our lives more open, connected to truth-telling. So she affirms that to be loving, we must be willing to hear each other's truth, we must confirm the value of truth-telling. Lies make people feel better. Lies make people feel better, but then do not help them to know life. So that's chapter 4, chapter 3, in which she emphasizes honesty as the core of a loving truth. And in chapter 4, she speaks of let love be love in me. And she directs a quote by Scott Peck. She says, commitment is inherent in any genuinely loving relationship. Anyone who is truly concerned for a spiritual growth of another knows consciously or instinctively that he or she can significantly foster the growth only through the relationship of consistency. And so, commitment to truth-telling lies at the groundwork for openness and honesty that is a heartbeat of love. And he devises on the fact that people must be paid to take responsibility to every socialization that has been given, and we must exercise control of our actions, give unconditional love, and information, and do not expect love from someone else if we do not give ourselves. Unconditional love we give ourselves must be the same unconditional love that we seek from others. We cannot expect what we do not already practice towards ourselves. So that was chapter 4. And then chapter 5, which is with watch is spirituality and divine love. And this is powerful, in which she openly affirms her faith. And at the time that so if it's something that I serve for, she says that love cannot be revitalized, can only be revitalized by spiritual awakening, and that while love is at the heart of every major religion, spiritual practice need not be connected to organized religion to be meaningful. Love is presented the very essence of God is love, powerful guiding force that transcends human will. And for her, that's very important. That we must, that she says, my belief in God is love, and love is everything. Our true destiny sustains us. I affirm that these beliefs through daily mediation, prayer, through contemplation and service, through worship and loving kindness. So that's how we divine love. And so then in chapter 6, chapter is living my love ethic. And she quotes Marianne Williamson, and she says, we must live for the day with human society, in a truly democratic paradigm. There is no love in the power for power's sake. There's no love of the power for power's sake. So, chapter 5, definition for love ethics, which is a love ethic that transforms our lives, enhances our spirit, aligns us with humanity. And we must that we show care, respect, knowledge, integrity, learning how to face our fears, and choosing always to follow a love ethic. So what is a love ethic? It's challenging yourself, being courageous, and that as we love, fear leaves, to continue to live boldly. And then chapter 7 is where she speaks of greed as being in contrast with love. And so the current understanding of materialism, focus on acquisition and consumption, creates narcissism and leads to mass alienation, loneliness, and despair. And this is consumerism trap. And she says the solution to this, to live simply. And living simply is every day resist greed, make room for compassion, and affirm your connection with the world. And so, very interesting. Step away from that. So kind of an interesting chapter. And it's a learned action against what is being showcased in greed, as she says, destroys life. Amazing. Okay. Then in chapter 8, he speaks of community, and that what does it mean to be community? Is that I wrote this as a manner. It says community sustain life and trust at the heartbeat of genuine love. Within loving community, we sustain by compassion and forgiveness. Forgiveness also brings an act of generosity, giving freely. Scott speaks of a way to seek a way in which we live with others and others in love and peace. Love is about meaningful relationships, not just about romantic bonds. Love is a world knowing and you must have a bond with yourselves of respect, care, knowledge, and responsibility brought to friendship. As you would not tolerate the certain behavior in a friendship in which you would tolerate in a physically abusive romantic relationship. And she also adds about the fact that the art of loving requires knowing how to be solitary, and solitude is peace, where loneliness is painful. And moving from solitude into community enhances our capacity for fellowship and service. Powerful. Knowing how to be solitary is central to the art of loving. When we can be alone, we can be with others without using them as a means of escape. Powerful. Underline. Here the heart. She speaks about true giving is a joyous thing to do. To love, we must surrender our attachment to sexist thinking in whatever form it takes. Love is as real force as gravity, and must be upheld every day, every minute, giving healing to the spirit. And true giving is joyous and a healing act. So she speaks specifically about that. And then in chapter 10, she focuses on what, when people think of love, they think of romance, sweet love. So she affirms that true love, romantic love, is achieved through intention and will, not just a feeling. We love by intention and will, by showing care, respect, knowledge, and responsibility of our love satisfies. True love is all what she says. Love satisfies when we show care, respect, knowledge, responsibility. So true love is all work and requires us to be bold and courageous, using fearlessness as a catalyst of commitment. It is through this intentional work that we can achieve love that is strong and powerful. And then our last two chapters, chapter 11 is, I just go to, I don't want to talk for myself. Chapter 11 is loss, loving into life and death. So this was a powerful reminder that our life is divided against itself. It becomes a tug of war between love and fear itself. And so he addresses that loss or death. We grow in spirit and truth, and how we stand before life and death, ready to live fully. It's a reminder for us to live fully, and the deeper love we share with others creates a communion of saints. We've loved deeply, continue to live in our presence, not just as memories. And she quotes a book by Elizabeth Kumbula-Ross, The Wheel of Life, in which she asks someone the secret of how she coped with death around her, and she says, in doing so, we must befriend death and let it be our guide in life, meeting it unafraid. And lastly, in chapter 12, this chapter that closes the book, she speaks of redemptive love, that love heals, healing is an act of communion, and that by asserting that love heals, that healing requires conscious forgiveness for genuine reconciliation and maintaining a consistent state of hopefulness to renew the spirit, and that overcoming fear. Fear intensifies doubt and paralyzes faith and hope, and allows us to let fear is the ultimate obstacle to love. Love gives life meaning and makes us ready for the gift and promise of love that is constantly coming to us. So, in conclusion, reading this book, there were moments of profound quotations and profound thought that came with definition of love. It all comes back to what she said in the beginning of the book, which was why she initially wrote it. Because for her, it was everyone wants more love. Everyone, the search for love is a universal action. It's not something that is unique to just her. And so it becomes very important that to consider what is the meaning of love and what it would mean. And so in each chapter, there's some prolific quotations, there's some scenarios, how she encompassed love into her career and what she does, how she's considered that love is not a feeling, it's true love is all work and requires us to be bold and courageous, and it's about action and ethical living and letting love be the dominant force. And she dissects the myths about love and demands that we embody the principles of love ethic daily. And she talks about personal collective redemption. So it's about community and also about self, how to love more in a community sense and how to love more within yourself. So personally, I think this book is essential reading for everyone who wants to transform their relationships, work, personal, school, whichever community that you're in, and embracing courage and being revolutionary about the world of love. So yeah, I think it's as Maya Angelou said in this book, every offering for Bell Hook is a major event, as she has much to give us. So I thoroughly enjoyed this book and hope I can read the other two of this book. But definitely, my next review will be an academic book. This was a challenging book. It wasn't a challenging book to read. It was a very easy read. You can casually read this over time, casually stroll through the pages, but I would truly recommend you read from beginning to end. If you've come this far, thank you and hope you have a nice day. Bye.